good people? It's your boy, Chris Gray.
And it's your homeboy, Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
We are bad.
Yes, and we have a wonderful conversation about D-1, an inspirational, motivational artist from down in New Orleans, and we have Lecrae from Houston, Texas, also inspirational, also motivational, two God-fearing men responding to Kendrick Lamar's "The Day the Party Died" song, where Kendrick Lamar mentions them in his song. And so both artists have shared their thoughts through song. They shared their thoughts through interviews and on social media. And so we want to take the time to kind of unpack those thoughts. And basically, we just want to say how D-1 and Lecrae have taken it a little bit one step further than Kendrick did in the beginning. So let's just get into it. So I think we should start first with Lecrae's drop, "Die for the Party."
Yeah.
Which is a little bit more calm in its tone and its theming. So where do you want to start with that? How did you feel about that song the first time you heard it?
I felt good about it. I've always felt good about Lecrae's music. I think that he toes the line, or not toes the line, but he does the duality of living as a Christian and the fact that you still make mistakes, and then making music that is inspirational and talking about how he worked through those things. Mm-hmm. So it comes off as a person that actually cares about you versus coming off preachy, as we talked about before, which is why we enjoyed Kendrick Lamar's "When the Party Died" so much in the beginning. It's because it doesn't come off that way. But what did you think about it on your first listen?
I think I really I listened to it a few times. At first, I was wondering why he was motivated to make this, but he speaks about that in the beginning. And so, he said, "I was wrestling to write a verse," and he was concerned about being too clout chasey. And this is something that he speaks about on his podcast, where he felt like his relationship with Kendrick Lamar was something that he didn't want to mention until it was the right time, because mentioning it will make people believe that he's clout chasing. I think that's a kind of a anxiety riddled sort of thing. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be out here sort of like milking the name of Kendrick Lamar, obviously. But if you have a real relationship and it's a natural opportunity to state that you have a real relationship and it doesn't violate Kendrick's trust, why not?
I think because of the stance of him being a Christian rapper. And then it's one of those where people throw stones at glass houses in a way of like, "Oh my God, you hang with someone that does secular music. What?"
Yeah, but who's going to be the most likely to judge him for that?
The same people that he's making music for. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's weird, right?
He has gone through this so much, especially like on Twitter, like, because he'll have a tweet and they will be murdering him or trying to in the comments.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that comes from for him, because when you are a artist, I mean, I talk about it on my album, it's just like you're always dealing with that perception, right? Like, what can I say and what can I say?
You should be above everybody's standards. And that's so weird, because we don't do that to other faiths. At least to my knowledge, we don't do that to other faiths. But I think that's part and parcel, because Christianity has judged a lot of other people, not as a collective, right? Because we can't judge the individual based off of the way some bad actors respond in Christianity.
Yeah.
But what happens?
I like that, because they are actors. Continue.
Preach. But people in the church have come off as higher than other people.
Yeah.
Whereas that doesn't reflect the entire body of the church. And then people are outside of the church are going to say, "Well, you're not holding yourself up to this really high bar.
Yeah.
And you're not perfect. So how do you have an opportunity to say anything? It's the Kirk Franklin effect.
Bruh.
You remember that from our childhood?
Man, listen, I could talk so much about how not just Kirk Franklin, but Fred Hammond. I remember these eras, and this is why it's so important that D1 and Lecrae exist, because when you get Mahalia Jackson, right, when we're talking about like how people respond, when you started adding soul into gospel music, they didn't like that.
Right.
Like there
and blues and
and it was when it was just it needs to be higher than thou.
It's hymns.
Yeah, like it had to be like clean, pristine hymns that have no mention or no emotional tie to them whatsoever, right?
Right.
So then go ahead.
And that's where like I felt most comfortable is when Kirk Franklin was introduced to, our choir. And as kids, we were like, yo, this is jamming.
Yeah.
And this still speaks to me. And when we brought it to our church, we did have some of that response. Why are these kids doing this hippity hop thing with the screaming man on
with the screaming man?
He's doing all the ad libs in the song.
But this is to bring up a Pokemon reference. Well, for me it is.
Oh gosh.
The evolved form of that, right? It's the evolved form. It's the final evolution, if you will.
Who's that? Jesus man.
But you see how people are like, or at least with Lecrae, because that was my more so my point on why he's so calculated with mentioning the Kendrick stuff. They have been so on his back that he is still very devout and stands firm in what he believes in, but I think he tries to be a bit more careful when he's being open, and he's been doing the podcast, bringing in a lot of people, faith and other people that he just chops it up with and just has a real earnest conversation. Whereas D1,
hold up before you get into that, because I don't want to segue into a long D1 conversation and then.
Okay, well, we'll get back. We'll get to the we'll finish the Lecrae portion of it. Lecrae is just, to me, very calculated and always, in my opinion, leading with the love that you should lead with when you're trying to discuss these tough topics.
Yeah, the way I see it is he's also like Kendrick Lamar, making an observation of himself and of his environment. And to your point, he is more of a realistic version of Christianity, or people that walk in Christianity, because he is unafraid to say that I am imperfect. So let's really call it like it is and get to D1's response, because it's almost night and day. And he does a great job with showing the Reebok soldiers, but it's night and day on the cover because Lecrae has the white shoes. Kendrick had the black Air Force Ones. And now D1 brings it home to New Orleans, and he has the Reebok soldiers on his cover for Call It Like It Is. And that's exactly what he does. He calls it like it is on this song. And I say it's night and day because he is more direct. He says that, these people are having a whole, basically they're just out here wilding. They shouldn't be wilding.
Yeah.
And I'm not for it.
Okay. So here's my couple quick notes on how I felt first listening to the song. And I think that's where we should at least start with it, right?
Call it like it is.
I was like, okay, I was kind of expecting something similar to Lecrae's, because I listened to Lecrae's first. And then when we get into it, it's like, okay. You are stirring the pot, but not in a way that I think will get the results that you want. It's going to get a conversation for sure, but it's going to continue to be this aggressive conversation. Even if the things you're saying, like you care for people, you want whatever, whenever you go back to the whole this is why they won't take us serious and all those other comments, people tune you all the way out.
Yeah, this is it becomes a us versus them sort of thing where there's this part of the culture that wants us to sort of, well, he wants people in the culture to grow up. And he also believes that like there's a lane for individuals who don't rap about the streets and or even pretend to rap about the streets if you're not about that life.
And I also think it's just like, and I get where he's going, because it's not like he's specifically talking to people, because he's more so talking to the artists themselves. So he's always talking to like the artists where it's like, y'all are the ones who are continuously doing this. You're poisoning our community and wondering why all of these things are going on. It's everything that you do because you are the viewpoint or the viewpoint by which people see us, right?
Yeah, he elaborates on that with an interview he does with Bootleg Kev.
Yeah,
where he says that like, hey, you know, I had this conversation about Rick Ross because Rick Ross said that like, hey man, I just, you know, I get out here and I pass out turkeys every Thanksgiving, and so that should make my message, you know, okay. You know what I mean?
Like, well,
I sort of repent by by passing out turkeys.
That is a wild statement.
But I mean, that's what it is,
but
though.
It is. What's funny?
Call it like it is. I'm not gonna say that anymore.
Come on, man. I'm trying to keep it. I've been trying to keep it PG.
That's not what this episode is about.
I'm trying to like think about it from this context, right? You end up in a situation where these artists never feel encouraged to make full songs about the stuff that they're doing, right?
Yeah.
You know, Killer Mike doing Michael, I think is probably like the closest representation we have of somebody that's like going through their religious resurgence.
Put your hand
my bad.
Shaking the table. Put your hand
going through their
in front of your face.
Going through their religious resurgence, right? While addressing all these different things and trying to make songs for the actual people that need it. Whether it's Song for Junkies, like I think is one of my favorite songs on that album, but I think is a better way. Whereas
it's a better way than D1's way.
D1's way, while you're talking to them, a lot of them will take what you're doing as a threat because you're talking to me aggressively on a track. Yeah,
so you're telling me what to do instead of helping me find a way to do it differently.
Yeah, and a lot of them,
I didn't ask you for you to tell me what to do.
But also some of them won't even have the conversation, right?
Yeah, because why should I? It's much easier to keep my life this way.
Yeah. And I think that's where I understand his passion in the song and understand the passion of like Call It Like It Is. I mean, I did feel like, you know, he did a lot of like trigger things, right?
Same.
Where it was in terms of like calling people kind of coons a bit. It's kind of like the thing, like you act all some in front of the white man, like, and that's normally like another triggering.
Yeah, if you go to work, you're all like happy and clean.
Yeah.
But when you're at home, you're different, or you're in the streets, you're different. I think that's based off of white supremacy culture, though. You know what I mean? Because there's no way that black folks can show up and be them and expect it to be good. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean like black folks in the workforce like showing up late or, you know what I mean, or cursing at customers and things like that nature. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like you can legit like wear your hair a certain way you can't wear your hair a certain way at work.
Right. And I do understand that, but it's kind of like, okay, when you present some of these things, right? Have we created an industry where that's safe for people to be more themselves? Are there more jobs where people can be themselves or in their full blackness in that way?
No.
And a lot of times, like, the things that he's discussing, like, again, it's difficult. You have to kind of get through the muck and the obstacles and like when you're standing on something or whatever it is. But a lot of the things that he's addressing, because this is like this is the soldier, the Reebok soldier version of the response. Cause it's more like, yeah, y'all out here wilding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I hear your point. It's almost like pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yes. Yeah.
Without saying it. And I get the balancing of what he's saying, that we don't have to choose certain parts of our lives, especially the rappers.
Yeah.
Right? The artists, the people that made it do not have to choose to continue to say these things in the way that they say them. I think they're speaking to an audience that can only hear one message because of the conditions. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think if D1 wants to make a change, and this is not a knock to D1, like I love his music. I've been watching him and listening to him and putting his music on the radio since the blog days. What I think D1 should focus on is how can you tell us how to sort of circumvent or escape the culture of racism, the culture of our environment, beyond just telling us not to talk this way or do these things. Because humans are creatures of habit.
Right.
You put us in an environment, we're conditioned to make this all that we know. And until you have different experiences, which takes resources, until you have different experiences and have the resources to have different experiences, you can't be different, or it's difficult to be different, right? Like our education in our neighborhoods. So you and I both have college educated families, right? Which is one of the resources that allowed us to take a step forward. Not everybody has that. And so I think D1 should talk about the condition of the environment, more so the people that are responding to the environment itself.
And I also think he does it in his interviews. So he'll talk about, how he was a middle school teacher, how he's a current college professor, how he's taught classes at Harvard, and like he even did a thing with artists in New Orleans to like have a conversation and a dialogue, right? I think he falls into like almost that Rick Ross thing, because like it kind of falls into the turkey thing. Like we know what you're doing over here, but is the music a lot of times reflecting that, right?
Right. So this is one way that, and I want to give D1 his credit, this is one way that D1 does call out the environment. He talks about the labels that pay people to reinforce that environment.
Yes.
And so he does critique the fact that the media landscape, the record labels that put money behind, that is a great way to continue to have the conversation. But I also believe that he should teach people how to be independent, not just independent in music, but independent in life, because the only way that you can actually get out of that is to circumvent the system and get the resources, right? So whether that is education, whether that is even beyond education, whether that is credit, whether that is ownership and financial literacy, all of those things can help you get out of that situation and into a better place.
Speaking of doing things positively, let's do it might not become a segment, but we wanted to just do like a little indie review. Of DeAndre Tyree's new project, Nobody Cares.
Yeah, so it's available on Bandcamp. DeAndre is from Wilmington, Delaware. We first connected on a song that we did, Nothing Extra, a few years ago, and that was a great connection. He's a dope independent artist, connects with dope producers, and his lyrical ability is all the way there. So we're gonna play a little bit of the intro song. So Nobody Cares intros produced by the Goodfellas, and we'll play a few seconds and then just kind of share what we think about a few words about the entire project, and then we'll kind of leave that link down in the description. So here we go with Nobody Cares, the intro by DeAndre Tyree.
Yeah, trap the name dead, little homie, get your money up. Niggas still broke, man, I tell him get your money up.
Yeah, and that is the homie DeAndre Tyree, Nobody Cares intro off of his album, Nobody Cares, a short story by DeAndre Tyree. So again, the link will be down in the description for his Bandcamp album. We suggest that you go and download it from there. That he has the most support, and listen to it on YouTube as your streaming service.
Yeah, I enjoy that song because I think there's a lot of positivity packed into it.
Yeah,
Which you wouldn't expect because of how trapping is perceived. And I think like it's more so I'm getting it off the strength, I'm working it off the muscle and everything else. And I think that that's an excellent positive message to kind of have while also bringing you in with terminologies that you are used to.
yeah. The way it comes off is like this is hard work for me.
Yeah.
And I'm waking up every day in order to get this. And so trapping ain't dead in the sense of I'm a hustler and I'm gonna make sure that I get it. So yeah, I can hear that positive message too.
You a hustler,
Homie. And speaking of, like, we were kind of mentioning about DeAndre's tone. Mm-hmm. I hear a little bit of help me,
Young Chris
and Cassidy, right? In his vocal tone. I love the way the mix sounds. It sounds really professional. And I love the way that the vocals are mixed as well.
Yeah. Artwork is also dope for the album, which you want to have a nice little eye catcher thing for people. I think it sets up a really nice thematic mixtape kind of thing. It gave me old mood music 2 ish vibes.
He's watching the city burn.
DJ Clue era. Yeah.
As the moon is on the full moon.
Yeah, and it's just like nobody cares.
Right.
So I appreciate that. And then honorable mention of a song that I really, really enjoy on here is Asking Why.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like that.
I also like Asking Why. And so shout out to you, DeAndre. Like I want to hear more. I want to hear also more depth in his voice, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see him pick up the cadence a little bit. But nonetheless, this is great work. So good job, my dude.
Salute.
Yeah.
But anyway, we appreciate y'all for joining us on this episode. What did y'all think about Lecrae and Dee-1's responses? Leave that down in the comments. Thank you again for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. We appreciate all the love that got shown on our video last week. Continue to show that love. Share this with somebody if you think it's going to be something that's beneficial for them.
Yeah, and get our watch time up.
Yeah.
Watch these videos for longer if you enjoy them. Don't skip through. Don't turn it off too early. Just don't leave YouTube. Keep watching, and we'll continue to put links to the music down in the description.
And thank you guys. We'll see you next week. A 1 and a 2 and peace.